And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome on in. It's lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. We're both in Florida, Mike, but different parts of the states.
Well, about 80 miles, about 80 miles away. So, we're in the best part, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's a good place to be.
And we're both covering, both down here covering two very different events that we're going to be talking about here for most of the show as you are at Cardinals Spring Training as they are getting ready to wind down the final few games of this 2023 spring training. And tonight I will be at Lone Depot Park for the World Baseball Classic Championship. It's USA, it's Japan, and Claibs what very well could be the most watched baseball game of all time tonight down in Miami.
You mean by the world?
By the world, yeah.
Uh, Maybe so. Maybe so.
You don't seem on board with this. Do I need to put
No,
you in the same column as like Keith Olbermann when it comes to
no.
being against the
What?
World
I'm
Baseball
not against
Classic?
it. I'm not against it at all. I wish they would have used the current rules that we're using now. But other than that, it's fine. It's great for the game. It's galvanized a younger audience, which baseball desperately needs. So I have no problem with it.
It is you have called
I
many
mean,
games, and
yeah.
you've called many games at Lone Depot Park. You've been there every year for the last 10 years down there, and Claibs, I am telling you, if you were there for any of these games, you would see an
I
atmosphere.
was
When
Saturday.
you were there Saturday,
Yeah,
and you didn't text me, you didn't say anything to me.
last minute
Uh huh.
opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I was there in
Trust
the
me.
building.
Yeah, you know what?
Uh huh.
First of all, it's a very difficult place to get out of.
It.
You
Oh
know.
no, that whole area is not set up for
Yeah.
anything like that. No.
But here's the thing. I made this point earlier today. While I know everybody's like really impressed with the fans' rabid activity, I think you'll always get that in international play, no matter what the sport is, because those people who subscribe to international play will follow their country wherever. They already are jitted up. So it's great that they come and they experience something that's different. But that's something that couldn't be maintained in any ballpark in America for 81
No.
nights out of a
No.
season.
God, no. Absolutely not. But I think what it shows is that there is a there is a market for baseball fans down in Miami that the Marlins don't have gone the past decade not trying to cater to.
I would disagree with that. I think they made some attempts. They've had a low budget, but they've spent money here recently. That's just who they are. But if you remember, they've won World Series before.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're like the Pittsburgh Pirates or somebody who has no chance. Uh, I think that their issue is they don't make enough investment in how to market the team because they spend money on some players. I mean, they re-signed Alcantara, they brought in Garcia. There's some other guys that they made an investment in. It may not be of the $100 million player, but you know what? I think that they're developing a trend that will make them more attractive. It doesn't help them being in a division that they're in, but I think they're a team that at some point you're going to say we don't want to play them because they're good enough to beat us. They have enough talent. They just are thin. They don't have a room for injury. They're not deep at all, but they've got some decent pitching. Defensively, they working on some things. They got some stopgap guys in some situations, but they're not that far away from being a legitimate competitor in the division.
The game tonight, Japan and the United States baseball. I think this is the championship game they wanted. This
Yeah.
is how they wanted it to end. Japan last night had to come from behind and win that game down 3-0. They fought their way back, then immediately go down again. And in the bottom of the ninth inning, their 3, 4, and 5 hitters show up and win it for them against Cardinals relief pitcher Giovanni Gallegos. As impressive as the St. Louis Cardinals were for Team USA on Sunday, they were as disappointing, equally as disappointing last night. Jojo Romero and Giovanni Gallegos yesterday for Team Mexico.
Well, you know what? I think Jojo Romero should have stayed here because he may not have a job when he gets back. It was unfortunate what happened to both those guys, but you know what? Somebody's got to lose and somebody's got to win. So let me ask you this: of all the guys, and I think there's some other teams that guys who join their respective countries might find themselves out of a job when they come back because somebody else has either played better or they haven't played well enough to keep a job. And I think that the next time they have this event, guys like that should think long and hard. And I'll give you another guy. I think Andre Palante might be a guy in that position. So it's one of those situations that, as Michael Whitty, our esteemed media guy, who does a phenomenal job down here, is bringing us some notes for the game today.
Who they got today?
Michael, say hello to everybody. He's a true talking head. Anyway.
Who the Cardinals got today, by the way?
We play the Washington Nationals.
Okay. So I get your point with Jojo Romero, but that, and the other side, if he comes in there and he shuts down the Japanese in that is a bigger showcase. I mean, wouldn't that be a bigger deal for making the Cardinals than it would to pitch in a late game against AA players for the Nationals?
I think 6 in one and half dozen in the other.
So, so if that's the case then, and playing for your country means something for you, and you're considered to be one of the best.
I think it's more important for him to be with a team that he was on the fence with than getting out some guys he's never going to face again. So I think guys like that may have cost him.
Andre Palante, I mean, I don't know what his defined role is going to be with the Cardinals this year. I don't know if that's something you can find out in spring training. I felt like last year he was a guy that could come in if the starter couldn't go into the fifth inning or so. He starts that fifth inning and he's kind of that bridge fifth, sixth inning guy. And I think that's what his role is moving forward. Andre Palante is a guy whose numbers showed that he was really good when he'd come in and start an inning with nobody on base, but you couldn't bring him in middle of the inning to put out a fire. So I don't know if anything would have changed in spring training for Andre Palante.
Well, I'm going to tell you what changed. Drew Verhagen. Drew Verhagen's going to make this team.
Mm-hmm.
He'll take Palante's job. So, again.
So does Palante go down to Memphis and you just stretch him out as a starter?
Yeah, I think that's probably what you have to do.
In the long term, is that not better for Palante then? I mean, he wasn't going to be a starting pitcher on this team, on the Cardinals.
I don't know if he'll ever be one.
Right.
And maybe so. I don't know. But my point being, he needs work. He needs work in front of legitimate players. And I'm not saying the guys he faced were illegitimate, but I also think that there are guys like that who probably need to have more legitimate work within his own organization. And, it's not just Palante. I'm sure there's some other guys that are probably on pins and needles right now as far as whether they have a job when they come back.
And you're probably right. And when you look at it the other side, and right now you can read it on claibsonline.com, it's Rick Hummel's latest article. A guy that had all the opportunities in the world, or at least the thought of having all the opportunities in the world, was Paul DeJong. You thought that with Edman being gone, with Arenado being gone, with Goldschmidt being gone, you thought that Paul DeJong was going to get all these opportunities here in spring training this year, and his body wouldn't let him stay healthy. That's and Rick Hummel writes about that this week. It appears right now that Paul DeJong is going to start the year on the injured list, which does that open the door now for Jordan Walker?
Well, I think Jordan Walker was on the team before Paul DeJong got hurt.
Okay.
Jordan Walker's been the best player in the spring that's been here from day one. I mean, Goldschmidt and Arenado were the best players before they left, but Jordan Walker hasn't missed a beat. And now he's adjusting. They're getting him out a little bit more, but he doesn't give away at bats. He's doing everything the right. He made one mistake yesterday in the field. His first game in right field, he threw to the wrong base. But other than that, he's been a pretty consistent player on all levels. But I don't think Paul DeYoung's going down has anything to do with Jordan Walker. I think Paul
Okay.
DeYoung's got bigger issues to deal with on whether he ever will be part of this team, because he wasn't that good when he was playing.
Yeah. As far as that goes, I just didn't know if you're putting together a 26-man roster, how that fits. That's kind of more my question with
Yeah.
if you're going with 26 people. You're not. I can't imagine you put Paul DeYoung down in Memphis to start the year again this year at this stage in
I don't
his
think
career.
you can. I don't think you can. He did that tour last year, and that was the last year he could do it.
Okay, so that's kind of what my question was how does that work with the with the makeup of the roster? So right now, what are the big question marks with this roster and with those 26 spots? Are there any on the offensive side?
Yeah, well, you know what? You need a backup catcher. That's glaring right now. You need a backup catcher. You have more guys in the bullpen than you have spaces for. I'll give you a good example. Jake Woodford yesterday was dynamite. I don't know where he's going to pitch. I mean, the bullpen is stacked right now on both sides.
Yeah.
So, they've got some real interesting decisions to make about some guys. I think you're going to see some guys get hurt or go on the IL and stash a guy or two. They're trying not to mess with the roster too much, but I don't think they have a choice. They're going to have to make some decisions about some people.
And that's kind of what I said this last night. I was on with Matt Pauley. I think the Cardinals bullpen is better than Team USA's bullpen at the World Baseball Classic.
Well, that's a good point you make, because I'm of the belief that if this tournament has one glaring element, it's the pitching isn't as good as it could be. And I get it. I mean, it's early in the spring, and you don't want to stretch guys out too far too soon. But the pitching has been the bugaboo for everybody, not just because they can't get outs at the right time, but we see when guys don't have control, like we see on a big league level on a daily basis, when they don't have control, you see the Altuves get hurt. You see, Arenado get grazed, and we've seen some other guys take pitches in that same regard. And I think that's the biggest difference with regard to the tournament compared to what we see on a daily basis.
Yeah, and that's when you sit and you think of when is a better time to have this tournament.
I don't think there is.
No, this is the best time to have it, because this is when they're actually playing baseball and everybody's playing baseball. You can't just shut down people for 2 weeks and do it in July. You can't do it in November after most guys have been off for a month. I mean, this is the best time to do it.
Let's back up for a minute. Let's back up for a minute on that. The NHL shuts down the league for 2 weeks, whether it's the All-Star game or for the Olympics, and I don't think it's hurt them very much. Now, obviously, you got some concessionaires and some fans that, would be jonesing on not being able to go to games and stuff. And I guess because of the weather in July is ideal, you can't stretch this or move the season back any further than what it is without running the risk of having some weather issues. So I don't know. I don't know when there is a good time, to be honest with you. But I would leave everything on the table.
Yeah, I think this is the best time.
Yeah.
I don't think if you do it in November, you're going to have guys that are going to go, you know what? We were eliminated. We were eliminated back in September. I really don't feel like playing in November.
And we'll play the family card. I want to spend some time with my family. Okay. We'll use that one too. But, I think what I would do, and maybe it's a little bit of a nightmare, maybe you expand the rosters a little bit more. But you're going to run the risk of somebody not playing. But I would expand the roster in my bullpen.
For the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, for the World Baseball Classic.
They're already at 30 right now on the rosters, aren't they? Yeah. So you already have it there. And I mean, what do you extend the bullpen and end up with more no-name guys out there?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. The no-name guys, the good ones are like, nah, I'm good.
If you gave me the list of who's in the bullpen right now for Team USA, I don't know if I could tell you what team they play for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it'd be like the segment that Barkley does on Inside
Who
the NBA.
Who he played for?
Yeah. We could do that.
That's the only time anybody should ever watch that show. It's the first show of the year. And for our listeners and viewers who don't know, TNT has this segment called Who He Played For. and they give these photos to Charles, and he's got to guess what team this guy now plays on.
Yeah.
And he will go 0 for 5. I don't think he's got one right in the last 6 or 7 years.
No. Claibs, when Daniel Bard came in the other day and pitched, I was sitting like, oh, I think, yeah, this guy's the closer for the Pirates. And then I go and look it up. Nope, he pitches for the Rockies.
Well, but then again, this guy was out of the game for a couple of years.
And then I saw that too. Yeah, he was gone for like 10 years.
So, you know what? It's come to that.
They're just pulling, and I was like, I saw that too, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to make fun of him. Like maybe he had something, like maybe he had cancer or something. No, it just he
wasn't very good.
No, he wasn't
and
good.
Apparently he's still not very good.
And then he found something. I mean, maybe the spider tack or something. I don't know what he found, and he became a better pitcher again. And now he's not. And
by the way, let me ask you: are they checking pitchers after each inning?
I have not seen that happen once yet.
Okay. So I know MLB is told the umpires, let's do a better job at checking guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently there's something new on the market some of these guys are trying to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the umpires have been told, let's take a deeper dive on this situation. So
yeah, that is something I have not seen happen at all. I haven't seen a guy walk out and have to check his hat or his belt or anything like that. So that is not something that I have noticed at all in any of these games. So Japan, US tonight. Are you going down to the game tonight, Claibs? I mean,
no.
Okay, so you're not making it down there for that.
I've seen all I need to see.
You know what? You saw a good one. These games have been been very electric and very fun to be at so far. But I'm ready to I think I'm ready for a little break. And I think we here are ready for a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little NCAA tournament right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com.
As one of St. Louis's fastest growing companies and largest private companies, St. Louis Acura is proud to serve you and remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. As new Acuras become more available every day, we are not backing down from selling 100% more quality pre-owned vehicles than ever before. We want customers that appreciate our friendly, outgoing team and our award-winning service because at St. Louis Acura, we are better than ever for you.
Back here at Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com. Joe Roderick, Mike Claiborne here with you. Claibs being at all these games this past few weeks or the past few days has made it a little hard to follow along with the NCAA tournament. But starting on Thursday, we are into the Sweet 16. How much have you followed along with everything so far?
You know what? Probably not as much as I've done in the past. I don't even know where I stand in the pool. I don't know what it was about this season where I just couldn't really get myself as involved as I have in the past. Now, I've watched the games, but, for this reason, you couldn't pay attention to the name on the front of the jersey because the guys' names on the back of the jersey weren't there the year before in a lot of cases. I think Marquette's one of the few teams that had everybody back they didn't go into the portal at all. And I think that's just been such a dynamic change to how the game worked, where some coaches didn't know what they had until late January, early February. And, they didn't know how to deal with them being under fire in a tournament like this. So I've enjoyed it. But I haven't, as I said, I haven't been as involved as I have in the past.
Yeah, that's, I think last Thursday, the opening round was the most that I had watched of all the games this week. But to see another 1 seed go down in the tournament to a 16 seed, we've seen that twice now in the last handful of years after it never happened before.
Let me ask you something about that. Do you think the gap is getting closer with regard to the 1 and 16 teams? As you mentioned, we'd never seen it before. Now we've seen it a couple of times here in the last few years. Are we narrowing the gap as far as a talent pool around the country?
I don't know if it's so much narrowing the gap. I think that there are players out there who are talented and can have a big game in a big moment. And I think just when when the stars align, I think you could have some. I mean, we'll look at it when Virginia lost. I mean, they got blown out.
Yeah.
When Virginia, I mean, they lost by 20 the year that they did it. I mean, I think if you get, I think maybe coaching has gotten a little better, that you get coaches that realize maybe what it takes to win a game like this, and they put together a good enough game plan, and everything aligns.
Here's another thing that comes into play. We used to always talk about the biggest difference between Division I, Division II was maybe the size in the middle and up front. Well, we don't emphasize that as much anymore because everybody's got good athletes, and they've negated the size factor. And if you don't believe me, ask Purdue. And I think that has a lot to do with, and what you just said, coaching, I think, is better suited to deal with all sorts of challenges compared to what they've been accustomed to in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's you see. You see some of these schools, and I think it's just one and done. And I mean, you see them get knocked off. Florida Atlantic now they advance, and they're they're a 9 seed now in the Sweet 16. But all the other 1 seeds are in there: Alabama, Houston, and I'm sorry, Kansas did get knocked off too. So you have Alabama and
Houston
now, as your 2 1 seeds. Looking at everything else here in this tournament, Claibs, as you kind of reevaluate it from 16, who do you like?
I like Houston. I like the way they're coached. I think it'd be something if they could play in their own backyard. But I like what they do. Again, I think it's anybody's tournament, though. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. I think that the way these teams are playing now, anybody could win this thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being back home and watching these games. This next round starting on Thursday. You got a 15 seed in there too, Princeton, as they knock off Mizzou. Mizzou once again. It's Dennis Gates did a great job his first year with with Mizzou. Gets him a win in the first round. Can't get him into the Sweet 16 yet again as they lose to a 15 seed. I think there were a lot of Mizzou faithful that thought that after Princeton knocked off the 2 seed that they had an easy route to the Sweet 16, and it just wasn't in the cards again as Mizzou fails and disappoints their fan base once again.
Yeah, basketball in our area, whether it's Mizzou or SLU, it's always been disappointing. I mean, the SLU thing just really bugs me because they're not getting any better. And all the teams, and I'm going back a few years, when we always tried to figure out how to beat Xavier, or we need to be like Gonzaga. I mean, all those things that we've done, all those schools have passed St. Louis U, come back around the block and pass them again, and it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
It's not getting any better, and I don't know how you fix it. First, you got to get out of this crappy conference and maybe find the Big East. And that'll generate better players, I would think, that you'd have to go out and recruit. Then you got to coach them. I think it makes them more attractive from a scheduling standpoint. So there's a lot of things. But, Mizzou, it was a roll of the dice. You didn't know what you were getting. You get a guy that comes in and he brings a couple of players with him. We don't know anybody else on the team for the most part. So good for him. I think he can build on it. But what's ironic about that? I think I was saying the same thing about Conzo Martin when he got in the tournament his first time around.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to work out great. Well, it didn't. So I'm out of the business of saying long term. I'm like, you got to go year to year at this point as far as how you evaluate these programs.
Claibs, 1 week left in spring training. What are some of the big things that you have your eyes on right now?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the bullpen is going to be a very big decision. Backup catching, there really isn't a lot out there that can come in and help you because you're going to need one. Here's the thing that nobody talks. They talk about Wilson Contreras loving to play. He's never played more than 135 games. So what are you going to do with those other games where you're going to have a Thursday afternoon, Sunday afternoon catcher? All right. And you can't have guys giving away at bats like we have this last couple of years. So you got to find somebody who can give you a couple of hits over a couple of days. I'm not asking him to, to be Johnny Bench. I just need him to catch and just provide some sort of offense if it's nothing more than a fly ball, a drive in, a run, or move a runner on. And we don't have that.
All right. You and Kamish getting together and doing anything this week?
We're going to do it tomorrow, and we'll drop it on Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. Rammer and I will do another Daily World Baseball Classic live tonight before USA and Japan. So a busy next few days here on Claibs Online. Have a great broadcast today, Claibs. I will talk to you later on.
You got to have fun tonight.
That is Mike Claiborne. I am Joe Roderick. This has been another edition of Lunch with Claibs and Joe right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.